When I moved in with my new roommate, I thought it would be simple: pay rent, share chores, maybe watch a few games together. But I never imagined that living with him would completely change how I saw myself, my relationships, and even my future. He was confident, kind, and full of life, someone who seemed to understand people easily. I didn't realize at the time that his presence would challenge how I viewed connection, trust, and who I wanted to become. His name was Jasper. For Leo, change had never been easy. He liked routines, quiet mornings, organized shelves, predictable days. But when his landlord suddenly raised the rent, his sense of stability started to fall apart. He spent nights scrolling through endless housing ads, each one more disappointing than the last. Too expensive, too far, already taken. Just as he was about to give up, he found one that felt right. Roommate wanted. 2-bedroom apartment downtown. Affordable rent. Easygoing guy. The photos showed a simple but warm place. Hardwood floors, sunlight pouring through big windows. It looked like a fresh start. Without hesitating, Leo sent a message. That's how he met Jasper. They decided to meet at a small coffee shop near campus. Leo arrived early, nervously adjusting his jacket sleeves. When Jasper walked in, people seemed to notice him immediately. Relaxed, friendly, confident. He had a presence that made the whole place feel lighter. "You must be Leo," Jasper said with an easy smile. "And you're Jasper," Leo replied, trying not to let his nerves show. They talked for hours. Jasper was a recent graduate, working part-time while figuring out his next steps. He loved sports, music, and weekend game nights with friends. Leo shared that he was studying literature, something Jasper found both funny and fascinating. Despite their differences, they connected instantly. Jasper's jokes broke through Leo's quiet nature, and Leo's thoughtful words grounded Jasper's restless energy. By the end of their coffee, Jasper leaned back and said, "I like your vibe. Want the room?" Leo blinked, surprised. "Yeah, I'd love to." And just like that, they became roommates. The first week was full of adjustments, unpacking boxes, learning each other's habits, and turning that small apartment into something that felt like home. Leo's room was lined with books and quiet order. Jasper's was a mix of energy and chaos. Yet somehow, the two spaces balanced each other perfectly. Leo didn't realize it then. But this was the start of a new chapter, one that would teach him about acceptance, friendship, and the courage it takes to truly understand yourself. Sports gear piled up in the corner. A guitar leaned against the wall, and laundry always seemed halfway done. Their shared space slowly began to reflect both of their personalities. Leo kept the kitchen spotless. Jasper's sneakers somehow always ended up by the couch. Still, it worked. They fell into an easy rhythm. Leo cooked most nights. Jasper handled the dishes. Bills were always split on time. And a few evenings each week, they'd watch movies together, sometimes talking, for hours afterward about everything, from music to mistakes they'd made in life. But something quietly shifted inside Leo. It wasn't about attraction, alone. It was about the way Jasper lived. Free, confident, unbothered by what people thought. He seemed at ease in his own skin, and that comfort stirred something in Leo, a mix of admiration, confusion, and self-reflection. Leo had known for years who he was, but he had also learned to keep parts of himself hidden. Around Jasper, that wall began to crack. Every joke, every shared silence, every act of kindness made it harder to pretend he wasn't changing. He tried to ignore it, focused on school, kept busy with work, and brushed off the thoughts that made him uneasy. But you can only hide from your heart for so long. One rainy night, unable to sleep, Leo stepped quietly into the living room. The apartment was calm, the faint hum of the city blending with the sound of rain against the glass. He saw Jasper asleep on the couch, peaceful and unguarded. It wasn't the sight that caught him. It was the realization that, for the first time in years, he felt something pure. Not desire, not confusion, just truth. In that moment, Leo understood that this wasn't about anyone else. It was about him, learning to face the parts of himself he'd kept in the dark. And somehow, that quiet night became a turning point. The sight pulled something deep inside Leo, something he had been trying hard to bury. His pulse quickened, and a wave of confusion and guilt hit him all at once. Before he could look away, Jasper stirred. "Can't sleep?" Jasper's voice was low and drowsy. Leo froze, caught off guard. Just needed some water," he mumbled, gripping the glass tightly. Jasper blinked, stretching a little, clearly half asleep. "Guess I crashed out here after the game. Couch is not bad," he said with a faint smile. Leo nodded quickly. "Right, well, good night." He turned and slipped back into his room, heart pounding as if he'd just run a race. Leaning against the closed door, he tried to steady his breathing. That night left something unsettled inside him, something he couldn't quite name. The next morning, Jasper acted like nothing had happened. He was cheerful as ever, teasing Leo while making coffee, completely unaware of the storm running through Leo's mind. But for Leo, everything felt different. The air between them carried a quiet tension, unspoken but impossible to ignore. He told himself it was nothing, just an awkward moment. Yet deep down, he knew something had changed. Leo tried to push it aside. He focused on his studies, his routines, anything to stay distracted. But emotions have a way of slipping through even the smallest cracks. Every laugh, every shared glance, every simple act of kindness from Jasper felt heavier now, like it meant more than it should. And maybe that was the problem. It wasn't about attraction anymore. It was about truth. About the feeling of being seen completely on for the first time. Weeks passed and their routine continued. Friday nights were for movies, takeout, and endless conversations. One evening, as the screen flickered in the dark, Leo realized how safe he felt sitting beside Jasper, and how that safety scared him. Because safety, for Leo, had always meant distance. But with Jasper, it meant something closer. Something that forced him to face the parts of himself he'd kept hidden for far too long. That night, when Jasper fell asleep halfway through the second movie, Leo quietly turned off the TV. He looked at his friend for a moment, not with desire but with a quiet gratitude. For the first time, he wasn't ashamed of how he felt. He just understood. It was happening again, that quiet pull he couldn't explain. No matter how much Leo tried to stay composed, he kept being drawn into Jasper's orbit. Days turned into weeks, and the space between them seemed to shrink. Jasper was simply there more often, wandering into the kitchen while Leo cooked, leaning against the counter and asking about his day. If Leo was buried in work, Jasper would drag a chair beside him, pretending to need help with something, but really just wanting to share the silence. Jasper's easy warmth filled every room he entered. A pat on the shoulder, a playful nudge, a laugh that lingered longer than it needed to. None of it was deliberate, but for Leo, each moment felt charged with questions he couldn't answer. One evening, while Leo was chopping vegetables, Jasper leaned on the counter across from him. "You've been quiet lately," he said, tone light but eyes focused. "What's going on?" Leo kept his gaze on the cutting board. "Nothing. Just school," Jasper tilted his head. "You sure? You've been distant." Leo hesitated, unsure what to say. "I've just had a lot on my mind." Jasper nodded slowly, his expression softening. "Hey, whatever it is, it's okay. You don't have to keep everything bottled up." Something in his voice, gentle, steady, hit Leo harder than he expected. He wanted to speak, to explain the mess of thoughts inside him, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he just nodded. Jasper smiled faintly and let it go, switching the topic to dinner plans. But the conversation stayed with Leo long after. Over the next few days, things felt both normal and not. Jasper kept reaching out, inviting Leo to join his friends for a casual basketball game, cheering him on, clapping him on the back after every attempt. His energy was infectious. Later that evening, as they collapsed onto the couch after the game, Jasper laughed. "You know, we actually made a good team out there." Leo smiled, breathless but relaxed. For the first time in weeks, the tension eased a little. Maybe it wasn't about trying to label what was happening or running from it. Maybe it was about learning to exist in it, to accept that connection doesn't always need to be defined. The turning point came on a stormy evening. Rain lashed against the windows. Thunder rolled across the city, and for a moment, the lights flickered before steadying again. Leo and Jasper sat quietly in the living room, the sound of the storm filling the air between them. Jasper held a drink in his hand while Leo cradled a cup of tea. Then Jasper spoke, his voice softer than usual. "Do you ever feel like you don't fit into the person people expect you to be?" Leo looked up, surprised. "What do you mean?" Jasper's eyes stayed on the rain outside. "I don't know. I've always done what everyone expects. Acting a certain way, playing the role people think suits me. But lately, I've started wondering who I really am underneath all that." The words hung heavy in the air. Leo could sense the weight behind them, a truth Jasper had been carrying for a long time. "I've never told anyone this," Jasper continued quietly. "But sometimes I don't even know if I understand myself anymore." Leo's heart pounded. He wanted to say something comforting, but the words wouldn't come. Jasper finally turned toward him. "Does that sound weird?" Leo shook his head. "No, it sounds honest." For a moment, Jasper smiled faintly, relief flickering across his face. The storm raged outside, but inside, the silence between them grew softer, not empty, but full of unspoken understanding. For weeks, Leo had struggled to make sense of what he felt, the confusion, the connection, the constant pull between them. But now he realized he wasn't the only one searching for clarity. Jasper leaned forward, resting his arms on his knees. "Can I ask you something?" Leo nodded. "Do you feel that too? That connection?" Leo hesitated, fear and hope colliding inside him. Finally, he nodded. "Yes!" Jasper exhaled as though releasing something he'd been holding for far too long. "Good," he said softly, "because I don't want to pretend anymore." Outside, thunder rolled again, but inside something had shifted. The storm was no longer just outside their window. It had passed through them, clearing the air and leaving behind something fragile, honest, and real. The world seemed to tilt. Leo's heart pounded so hard it drowned out the storm outside. He could hardly believe what he was hearing. What was happening? For so long he had buried his feelings, convinced they could never be returned. And yet here was Jasper, not running, not judging, but staying. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was heavy but not uncomfortable. It was full of understanding, of things that didn't need words anymore. Jasper looked at him, really looked, and said quietly, "I don't know what all of this means yet. I just know I don't want to pretend anymore. I want to be honest, what with myself and with you." The words hit Leo like light breaking through clouds. He felt something inside him finally settle, a calm he hadn't known in months. "I understand," Leo said softly. "Whatever happens next, we'll figure it out together." Jasper smiled, small but genuine, the kind of smile that carried relief, trust, and something unspoken. The storm outside had softened to a steady drizzle. They stayed there side by side on the couch, talking quietly as the night faded into morning. For the first time in a long while, Leo didn't feel alone. The world was still uncertain, still full of questions, but now there was someone beside him willing to face it too. When dawn finally crept through the blinds, painting the room in gold, Leo realized something simple and undeniable. This was the start of a new chapter. Not perfect, not clear, but real. And that was enough. The morning after the storm felt different, lighter somehow, like the world itself had taken a deep breath. Leo woke slowly, the memory of last night washing over him in quiet waves. The storm had passed, but something between them had shifted forever. When Jasper walked into the kitchen, still sleepy but smiling, there was no awkwardness, just an unspoken understanding. A kind of peace. They talked softly over breakfast, careful but honest. Neither pretended that things were the same, yet neither wanted to run from what had changed. But outside their small apartment, the world hadn't changed with them. When Jasper's friends dropped by later that day, their laughter filled the room as always. To them, nothing was different. To Leo, everything was. When one of the guys teased Jasper about living with the quiet one, Jasper laughed it off like usual, a little too quickly, a little too loud. And though Leo understood, a part of him still ached. Later that night, when the door closed and silence returned, Jasper found him in the kitchen, his expression soft but serious. "Hey," he said, "you know I didn't mean anything by it, right?" Leo nodded, forcing a smile. "Yeah, I know." But deep down, he wondered if the world would ever let them be fully honest, or if truth was something they'd always have to hide. Outside, the last drops of rain tapped against the glass. Inside, two hearts learned that understanding each other was only the beginning. Facing the world would take something even greater. Courage. Something had changed between them. Not in the way they cared, but in how the world around them reacted. Jasper's friends joked as if nothing serious could exist between two people so different. They didn't see what Leo saw, the quiet strength, the unspoken support, the friendship that had grown through honesty and trust. But when Jasper laughed along with their jokes, Leo felt something twist inside. That night, he finally spoke up. "You laughed with them," Leo said quietly. "You let them make it sound like we're just a joke." Jasper's face softened. "I didn't mean to. I'm just scared of what they'll think." Leo sighed. "I get it. But if you always hide who you are, you'll never know who's really standing beside you." Silence followed, heavy but real. Jasper nodded slowly. "You're right. I'll try. I just need time." The weeks ahead tested both of them. Outside pressure grew. People's opinions, old relationships, the noise of what others expected. But through it all, Leo learned something powerful. When you live in fear of judgment, you lose the truth of who you are. That night, as the city lights flickered outside their window, Leo made a quiet promise to himself. No matter how difficult it became, he would choose honesty over fear and compassion over silence, because real connection, whether friendship, love, or loyalty, can only survive in truth. Jasper leaned against the counter, watching Leo stir his coffee without saying a word. "What's up with you?" he asked softly. "Nothing," Leo muttered, though the weight in his voice told another story. Jasper crossed his arms, sighing. "Come on, talk to me." Leo turned, frustration flashing in his eyes. "You laughed with them, Jasper. You let them joke about us like it was some kind of joke, like I was?" Jasper's face fell. "Leo, I didn't mean it like that. You just didn't want them to know," Leo said quietly. "You didn't want them to see who we really are." The words hung heavy between them. For once, Jasper's usual calm was gone. He rubbed the back of his neck, searching for words that wouldn't come. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "I didn't mean to make you feel that way. I guess I'm just scared." Leo's anger faded into something softer. He stepped closer, voice trembling. "I get it. But if this really means something, we can't hide forever." Jasper nodded, his eyes full of conflict. "I'll try, just give me time." Leo wanted to believe him. He really did. But the doubt never fully left. Days passed and the outside pressures grew heavier. One afternoon, Jasper's phone buzzed. It was his ex-girlfriend. Leo saw the hesitation in Jasper's face as he typed a reply. He didn't ask questions, but his heart tightened. Later, Jasper mentioned meeting her for coffee. "Are you getting back together?" Leo asked, his tone low but sharp. Jasper shook his head quickly. "No, I just don't want to be rude." "Then why do you look guilty every time she texts you?" Leo asked. Jasper exhaled slowly. "Because I don't know what to tell her. I don't even know what to tell myself. I don't know what this is." Leo's voice cracked. "It's whatever we choose to make it." But Jasper didn't answer. His silence said more than words ever could. The tension only grew. Inside their small apartment, things were warm, comfortable. Late-night talks, shared laughter, quiet moments that felt real. But outside, Jasper built walls again. Around friends, he laughed at jokes that cut too close. Around others, he acted like nothing had changed. For Leo, it was a constant battle between happiness and heartbreak. Then came the night of the party. Leo hadn't wanted to go, but Jasper insisted. The room buzzed with music and laughter. Jasper drifted between groups while Leo stayed on the edge, feeling invisible. Then one of Jasper's friends, Clara, grinned and said loudly, "Man, I don't know how you live with him without losing your mind. He's way too quiet for you." Laughter followed. Jasper forced a smile, but Leo saw the flicker of guilt behind his eyes, and then Clara added the words that stung the most. "I mean, no offense, but you're way out of his league." The group laughed again, and Jasper joined in. Leo felt his chest tighten. The noise around him blurred. Without a word, he slipped out and walked home alone through the cold night. When Jasper finally came back, Leo was sitting on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen. "Why did you leave?" Jasper asked quietly. Leo looked up, eyes heavy with hurt. "Because I can't do this anymore. I can't sit there and watch you laugh while people tear me down, while they treat what we have like it's nothing." "Leo, No," Leo interrupted, standing. "I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm not even asking you to tell the world. But I need honesty, from you and for yourself. Do you even want this? Or am I just something you're afraid to admit matters?" Jasper stood frozen. His lips parted, but no words came. Finally, he whispered, "I don't know if I can be what you need." Those words cut deeper than anything else. Leo's voice broke. "Then maybe we shouldn't do this." Jasper's eyes widened. "Wait, that's not what I meant. I'm just scared. Scared of losing people, of disappointing everyone, of not knowing who I really am. But I'm not scared of you. You're the only thing that feels right." Leo's eyes softened. The anger faded, replaced by quiet pain. "I just need to know you won't run when it gets hard," he whispered. "I won't," Jasper said, his voice trembling. "Just give me time, please." Leo didn't know if the promise was enough, but he wanted to believe it. That night they lay side by side in silence, their thoughts heavy but hearts still holding on. Outside, the world was still uncertain. But inside, for one fragile moment, there was peace. Because even through fear, doubt, and mistakes, Leo still believed in what they had. And deep down, Jasper did too. One Friday night, Jasper invited a few friends over to watch the game. Leo had been nervous all day. He wasn't sure how to act or what to say. But Jasper had smiled and said, "Just be yourself." Nothing's changed, except everything had. The evening started easily. Laughter, snacks, loud commentary over the match. But halfway through, Jasper did something so small it nearly stopped Leo's heart. Without even thinking, he rested his hand lightly on Leo's knee. For a second, the room froze. One of Jasper's friends, James, noticed. He raised an eyebrow and smirked. "Since when are you two this close?" He joked. The laughter died before it could start. Jasper hesitated, just a heartbeat too long. Leo's stomach twisted, waiting for the same thing as always, for Jasper to laugh it off, to pull away, to pretend, but he didn't. Instead, Jasper looked right at James, then at Leo and said quietly, "Since recently." The room went silent. James blinked, then let out a low whistle. "Well, didn't see that coming." He shook his head, a bit surprised, then turned back to the TV as if nothing had happened. The moment passed, but for Leo it didn't. Jasper's words replayed in his mind like a heartbeat. Since recently. Simple, honest, without apology. It was the first time Jasper had ever acknowledged them out loud, to anyone. And that small sentence meant more than anything Leo could have imagined. Later that night, after everyone had left and the apartment was still, Leo turned to Jasper. "You didn't have to say that," he whispered. "Say what?" Jasper asked, confused. Tell them about us. You could have just laughed it off. Jasper's expression softened. He stepped closer, his thumb brushing lightly against Leo's cheek. I didn't want to laugh it off, he said quietly. I'm done hiding how I feel. Leo's breath caught. Aren't you scared? About what people will think? Jasper paused. His eyes were honest, afraid, but steady. Yeah, he said. I am scared. But I'm more scared of pretending. I've spent too much of my life trying to fit into boxes that were never meant for me. I don't want to live like that anymore. He looked at Leo, voice softening. Not with you. The words hit Leo like a wave, warm, heavy, and real. All the loneliness, the doubt, the years of holding back, it all melted in that single moment. He didn't say anything. He just stepped forward and wrapped Jasper in his arms. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was just right. That night, as they sat together in the quiet glow of the TV, Leo finally exhaled. For the first time, they weren't hiding. The weeks that followed weren't easy. There were awkward questions, confused stares, and moments when the world felt uncertain. But through it all, Jasper didn't run. He stood beside Leo, honest, open, and unafraid. And for Leo, that was everything, because love isn't about perfection. It's about courage, the courage to be seen, to be real, and to hold on even when it's hard. But through it all, Jasper stayed steady. He held Leo's hand in public for the first time during a quiet walk through the park, his grip firm and unapologetic, even when a few people stared. He introduced Leo not as a roommate, but as someone special, someone who mattered. And at night, when the world grew still, Jasper's words would ease every doubt in Leo's heart. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me, he whispered one evening, voice rough with emotion. I didn't expect this. I didn't plan it. But I can't imagine my life without you now. Leo felt tears gather in his eyes. He leaned closer, forehead against Jasper's. You don't have to, he murmured. Because I'm not going anywhere. Spring turned to summer, and with it came a calm neither of them had ever known. The apartment that once felt like shared space became a home, filled with laughter, warmth, and the quiet joy of being fully seen. One warm July evening, they sat together on the fire escape, watching city lights shimmer against the sky. Jasper had his arm around Leo, holding him close as they shared a bottle of cheap wine in easy silence. You know, Jasper said after a long pause, if someone told me a year ago that I'd be here like this, with you, I would have laughed. Leo smiled, resting his head on Jasper's shoulder. And now? He asked softly. Jasper kissed the top of his hair, his voice calm and certain. Now I can't imagine being anywhere else. Leo closed his eyes, listening to the steady rhythm of Jasper's heartbeat beneath his ear. The doubts and fears hadn't disappeared completely, they never would. But they didn't matter as much anymore. What mattered was, the boy who once seemed unreachable, was now the person who reached for his hand without hesitation. The one who chose him, every single day. Months later, Leo would look back on that stormy night as the turning point. The moment honesty broke through fear. The moment friendship transformed into something deeper. Life wasn't perfect. They still argued, struggled, and faced questions about the future. But every challenge reminded them of one simple truth. They were stronger together. That night on the fire escape, city lights glowing all around them, Jasper squeezed Leo's hand and whispered the words Leo had been waiting to hear. I love you. It was soft, but certain, like the quiet beginning of a promise. Leo's breath caught. He looked up, eyes shining. Say it again. Jasper smiled, his voice steady and warm. I love you. Leo laughed through his tears and whispered back, I love you too. And in that moment, surrounded by the hum of the city and the endless stretch of sky above them, Leo knew he had found something real, not just love, but home. Two people, once afraid of who they were, had found the courage to be seen, to belong, and to build something that would last. Because sometimes, the most powerful stories don't start with perfection. They start with honesty and a simple decision to stay.